In the city of Denver, Colorado, where the mountains kissed the skyline and the air often carried a crisp freshness no matter the season, lived a young woman named Hannah Collins. She was 24 years old, a graduate student pursuing her master's degree in English literature at the University of Colorado, Denver. For as long as she could remember, books had been her safe haven, her escape, and her guiding light. Hannah was quiet but not shy, thoughtful yet always eager to learn. Her professors often admired her for the way she noticed details others overlooked. Among those professors was David Miller, a 36-year-old literature instructor who had built a reputation for being passionate, dedicated, and deeply invested in his students' success. David had a kind of charisma that wasn't loud but magnetic. When he spoke about stories, his voice carried conviction and warmth. Students admired him for his insight and his ability to make even the driest material feel alive. For Hannah, his class had become more than just a requirement. It had become a space where she felt inspired, encouraged, and understood in ways she hadn't felt in a long time. Life in Denver had been a mix of discovery and challenge for Hannah. Having grown up in a small town in Kansas, moving to a city as bustling and diverse as Denver was both exciting and overwhelming. The streets were alive with energy. Coffee shops filled with students tapping away on laptops, art galleries tucked into quiet corners, and mountains always lingering in the distance like patient guardians. But despite the newness, she often found herself battling self-doubt. She wondered if she truly belonged among the ambitious, sharp, and competitive peers who seemed so certain about their futures. One chilly Thursday afternoon in early fall, Hannah stayed after class, not because she planned to, but because she lingered longer than usual while packing her bag. David had just finished a lecture on the power of narrative perspective in modern American novels, and Hannah found herself lost in thought. As the last few students filtered out, David noticed her still seated in the back row. He tilted his head and asked gently, "Hannah, is everything okay?" She looked up, startled but quickly nodded. "Oh yes, I'm fine. Just thinking." He smiled in that reassuring way that always seemed to invite honesty. "Thinking is good. Anything you'd like to share?" Something about the way he asked made her pause. She hesitated, then admitted, "Sometimes I feel like I'm not good enough to be here. Like everyone else is ahead of me, and I'm just trying to keep up." David leaned against the desk, crossing his arms. His expression softened. "I've read your essays, Hannah. You're not just keeping up. You have a voice, a perspective that's uniquely yours. That's something you shouldn't underestimate." His words settled into her like sunlight breaking through clouds. She felt seen, understood in a way that lifted some of the weight she'd been carrying. That small moment became the beginning of something she didn't expect. Over the weeks that followed, Hannah and David developed a rapport. She would stay after class occasionally, sometimes asking questions about the material, other times simply talking about writing, books, or life. Their conversations were always professional, always appropriate, but there was a growing sense of connection. It wasn't romantic at first. It was more about mentorship, encouragement, and the rare feeling of being understood. Still, Hannah found herself looking forward to his class more than any other. Outside of academics, Hannah's life was steady but lonely. She lived in a modest apartment near downtown with a view of the city lights that always seemed to whisper stories waiting to be told. She worked part-time at a local bookstore, a cozy place with creaky wooden floors and shelves that smelled of ink and paper. Her co-workers were friendly, but her quiet nature made it hard to form deep friendships. Her closest companion was her journal, where she poured her thoughts, doubts, and dreams. One evening after class, as the leaves turned golden and the air grew sharper with the promise of winter, David asked if she had considered submitting her writing to literary journals. Hannah's eyes widened. "Me? I don't think I'm ready for that." "You're more ready than you realize," he said with quiet confidence. "The only thing holding you back is your own hesitation." She carried those words with her for days. For the first time, she seriously considered the possibility that her writing might matter beyond her notebooks and assignments. Weeks turned into months, and the semester drew to a close. On the last day of class, Hannah lingered once again. She wanted to thank David for believing in her, for encouraging her when she had nearly convinced herself she wasn't capable. When the classroom emptied and silence filled the space, she approached his desk. "Professor Miller," she began softly, "I just wanted to say thank you for everything this semester. You've made a bigger difference than you probably realize." David looked at her, his expression thoughtful. After a pause, he said, "Hannah, Can I be honest with you? Her heart skipped, unsure what he was about to say. Of course. He exhaled slowly, then said, From the first essay you submitted, I knew you had something special. Teaching can sometimes feel like shouting into the wind, but students like you remind me why I love what I do. You have a gift, Hannah. Don't let anyone, including yourself, convince you otherwise. Emotion rose in her chest, and she fought back tears. That means more than you know. He offered a small smile. Promise me you'll keep writing. Promise me you'll believe in yourself enough to share your words with the world. She nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. I promise. That moment stayed with Hannah long after the semester ended. Though their paths separated, David moving on to teach other classes, and Hannah focusing on her thesis, she carried his words like a compass. Over the next year, she submitted her work to journals, and to her surprise, one of her essays was accepted for publication. It was a small piece in a modest journal, but it felt like climbing a mountain. She wanted to share the news with David, but she hesitated, unsure if it would seem strange. Finally, she decided to send him a short email, thanking him again and letting him know. His reply came quickly. I'm not surprised. I knew you could do it. Keep going, Hannah. This is just the beginning. Their communication remained occasional but meaningful. Each time she hit a milestone, she found herself wanting to share it with him, and each time he responded with encouragement and pride. 2 years later, Hannah graduated with her master's degree. By then, she had been published in several journals and was working on her first collection of essays. At her graduation ceremony, surrounded by the cheers of families and the sea of caps and gowns, she spotted David in the crowd. He wasn't there as her professor anymore. He had come simply to support her. When their eyes met, she felt a rush of gratitude. After the ceremony, they spoke briefly. Congratulations, Hannah, he said warmly. You've come so far. I couldn't have done it without you, she replied. He shook his head gently. You did this, Hannah. I just reminded you of what you were capable of. In that moment, she realized something profound. Their story wasn't about romance in the traditional sense. It was about connection, belief, and the way one person's fell.